Uh, Good afternoon once again from Thailand, and good afternoon for everyone that for live broadcast from AAT Extension Program. It's the first time, actually, it is the first time since COVID-19 pandemic. We don't have any seminar in Thailand and other country. Normally, I have at least 2 or 3 seminar every week in Thailand or almost every month outside the country. But during COVID-19 pandemic, as you know, that's not only shrimp industry, the whole world, all the whole world industry already affected by this COVID-19 pandemic. So I think in shrimp industry, for today, I would like to focus the globally impact from this virus. And I would like to focus on white feces, because from white feces, I think is the main one. That's the main problem in this region, not in Latin America, but since Asian countries is the almost 70% or 80% of the whole world production are from Asia. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, I would like to talk in 3 topics about the effect of the COVID-19 on shrimp industry. And then for the second topic, I will go to the major disease during the pandemic from January until last month. And the last one, how to manage or how to prepare for the upcoming crop during pandemic. Next slide, please. Okay, now, as you know that from January, pandemic only started in China. China only locked down the country in January. So from January, in Thailand already have an outbreak, second from China. If you consider that outside China, Thailand is number 1 during January. Thailand have 17 people positive with COVID-19 at that time. China number 1 and Thailand number 2. So during that period, China locked down the country. So only affect the production in Thailand, because most Thai farmers export live shrimp to China. And once China closed down or locked down the country, we cannot export. So at that time, Thailand badly affected by lockdown the country from China. At that time, I called my friend from Ecuador. This lockdown the country from China have any effect on Ecuadorian shrimp farmer? The answer from my friend is, at that time in January, still don't have any not seriously affect from lockdown from China. But later on, the whole world got serious problem because every country locked down. So when we make a calculation from January up to May, we find out around 20 to 30% of production going to be gone. It means production going to be less than last year compared to a year before. I mean, from this year, the first half, compared to first half of last year. So we make the calculation that around 20 to 30% of shrimp production will be lower than last year because of pandemic. Indonesia, India, during that period, cannot stock. They reduce stocking PL because of when you cannot transport or import your broodstock into your country, you cannot produce the post larvae. So you cannot stock. So during that period, both Thailand is not serious problem because for stocking. But for India, Indonesia, they have a problem because once Chinese lock down the country, the price go down. Shrimp price go down drastically. So really affect, and people scared to stock. So people delay stocking. So in India, Indonesia, Thailand, during that period, they don't stock. They're waiting for the price going up. So price start going up in May. So in May, so it means stocking period delay. Like India should be, the stocking time should be in April. So that now they're stocking in June. So the production going to go out this month or next month. So we will see what the price is going to be. So for my estimation is that around 20 to 30% of shrimp production is gone because of shrimp price is very low during the early period and picking up in May. But right now, still not very good. So if you look for the problem, 30%, 20 to 30% of shrimp production will be gone. But the demand from US, from China, from EU to be reduced by 5%. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, now, during the first half of this year, I would like to focus only Thailand. Number one problem that we are facing now, white feces. In India, you call white gut. Some other countries, they may call white feces syndrome. They don't call white feces disease. Up to you. If you including disease, because you identify ESP or Vibrio bacteria, okay, you can call disease. But if you look for the clinical sign, you may call white feces syndrome, up to you. But number one, still white feces. Number two, white spot syndrome virus. So this virus still around in Thailand. The third one is early mortality syndrome or happen. So in some countries they call happen, some countries they call EMS. But for most shrimp farmers in Thailand, they prefer EMS because it's easy to pronounce, easy to call the name. Next slide, please. Okay, now this is a white feces. I will go back to this white feces, how to manage in Thailand. Next slide, please. Okay, now as you can see that on your left-hand side, this is the normal shrimp. You will have the gut not turn into whitish color. On the right-hand side is the white gut. You can see that the full gut completely white. This one is a really in severe case. Next slide, please. Okay, now the second is major disease for the first half of this year in Thailand is a white spot syndrome virus. You may wonder why white spot syndrome virus seen outbreaks everywhere in Thailand. Because in Thailand now, most farm, they're changing a lot of water. Most farm don't use closed system anymore. Most farm try to use recirculating system, but they change a lot of water. When you change a lot of water, you have to pump water from outside into your farm. If you don't rest enough or you don't treat or to eliminate carrier, you easily get this infection by this virus, white spot syndrome virus. That's why white spot syndrome virus really severe in Thailand. Second form, white feces. Next slide, please. Okay, this one, the first one, the early one is black tiger shrimp. This one for white shrimp, you can see white spot under the carapace. Next slide, please. Okay, now, we still have EMS in the country. Believe it or not, we have EMS for a long time. Still now we have EMS. So for EMS, you can look, you can see very easy. You don't have to send the sample to the lab to use PCR to check. You just look for the stomach and hepatopancreas with very pale color. You can see on the left-hand side. For the right-hand side is a normal, healthy shrimp. You can see that's very dark stomach and hepatopancreas. Next slide, please. Okay, now, for during pandemic for COVID-19, you have heard that China reject product from Ecuador and China reject salmon from Norway because of the packing, not because of this animal is a carrier, because of contamination. So during the pandemic of COVID-19, as you can see, Dr. Sagir mentioned, now in Asia, in India, Indonesia, Philippines, you can see a rising of the positive for COVID-19. So it means that we can have some worker that working in shrimp farm that positive for COVID-19. And then the contamination on the box, on the outside packaging, not in shrimp. But once you export to the, let's say to the China or US or EU, when they find out some people got infection because from working in that area, they can trace back where it come from. So it may come from the contamination on the box or from the packing, something. As I had already mentioned that the shrimp from Ecuador. Next slide, please. Okay, now you can see this one already post that Chinese custom detect coronavirus in frozen South American shrimp. Actually, shrimp is not a carrier for this virus, but people who got positive for COVID-19 working in the cold storage and packing. So the contamination of virus can be on the box, on outside the product. So this should be in concern now, because you can see now in Brazil, in Ecuador, in Peru, that one in Latin American country, a lot of infection is going on. As you can see now in Latin American country, now the weather is, the temperature is go down. So it means the season is now a little bit cooler than normal. So you can see more outbreak. So for COVID-19 in Latin America, I think it should go for a long time. And the same thing in Asia, you can see that in India, Indonesia, Philippines, you can see the rising of the positive number of COVID-19. Next slide, please. And now, so how can we do? I think now we have to more concern on how to work, because 80 to 90% of shrimp production in Asia for export. In India, in Thailand, Indonesia, we have domestic consumption maybe less than 20%, 80% for export. So if we let some of the people who get infection with COVID-19 working on the farm, we may have the contamination similar to salmon, similar to from shrimp from Ecuador. So this should be in concern for shrimp production along the chain from larvae, from hatchery, from the farm level, from the cold storage. So for the whole chain should be clean, should be free from COVID-19. Next slide, please. Okay, I like to see similar to this picture. Now I try to request every farm in Thailand, during your sourcing the site on the table, please wearing the mask. Please use the glove wearing the mask. Try to protect contamination. In case of you have positive for COVID-19, but no symptom, asymptomatic. So when you don't have any symptom, you don't feel that you get positive for virus, but you're still working. At the same time, you can spread the disease. You don't spread the disease to the shrimp, but the contamination during working in a shrimp farm, living like in this picture. So now I would like to request all of the shrimp farm all over the world, please be more concerned about contamination from workers to shrimp product for the whole chain. Otherwise, we will have the problem for exporting in the future. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, now, if you're working around in Bangkok, I think in Thailand, almost 100%, everyone go outside the house, wear the mask. Wash your hand, wear the mask. So this one is a common practice. We should do it. And temperature checking as well. So now, if we do not practice these three, washing the hand, temperature checking, and wearing the mask, we can see more and more contamination from shrimp product around the world going to the importing country. So this is the main thing I want to say. Now I would like to go back to white feces. For white feces, that's why I want to talk about white feces or emphasize on white feces. Because in India, Indonesia, Vietnam, China, Thailand, Malaysia, this is a major shrimp production for the whole world. So this Asian country has been facing white feces disease or white gut problem in the past 4 or 5 years. It's not just this year. We have more and more problem with white feces during 4 or 5 years already, and still now. So I still insist, in my opinion, that what went wrong? Why we have more white feces? At the same time, we got more, or we get better management every year. As you can see now, I think farm get more experiences for shrimp farming. They do shrimp farming more and more. They learn the mistakes. For mistake every year. But we still have more and more white feces. What's going on? In my opinion, I still believe that we have so many change in feed. I mean the quality of feed. When we start shrimp industry, around 34 years ago, I started shrimp industry around 34 years ago. During that period, we use feed meal 35%. Now, feed meal 5%. Some countries 10%, some countries 15%. I understand that, I do understand that we cannot go back to increase fish meal to 25, 30%, 35% anymore. Because we already overfishing, using too much feed meal already. So in the near future, every country try to lower protein from fish meal and replacing with some other protein, particularly from soybean meal. So in my opinion, and we already proved in the lab, in the field, we do a lot of research. The white feces is related to both feed. When you have a lot of soybean meal, you have a lot of anti-nutrient factor, such as lectin, beta-glucosidase, and unindigest oligosaccharide like raffinose, stachinose. So when you have all of that, that can cause the microvilli in a hepatopancreas slump off. And then you get vibrio infection. If you have a lot of myclosporidium ESP, this one will trigger more white feces. So you can see white feces faster than you don't have ESP. But if you feed, okay, as I already mentioned, we cannot go back to use 35% feed meal anymore. So we have to use whatever we have now. So in Thailand, about 5 to 8% of the feed meal now. That was claimed by the feed meal company. Okay, we accept that. So now I want to give you some information that the farm that's why in Thailand with white feces, what they are doing. Almost 100%, every farm, they select the post larvae very well. They want to make sure that, number one, they don't have ESP, microsporidium. Number one, they want to make sure that no ESP infection. Number two, during the growth period, they try to minimize the overfeeding. It means they try to control the feeding program. Make sure that you are a little bit underfeeding, not overfeeding. So when you minimize the loss of feed, it means you be able to control the organic matter, because leftover feed finally been increased organic matter and blooming the vibrio bacteria that cause by feces, particularly when you have a lot of ESP infection at the beginning. So by doing that, not enough. First, you try to select good larvae free of ESP. Secondly, you try to minimize the organic matter by controlling the feeding program. Thirdly, they use a lot of probiotic bacteria and use a lot of probiotic bacteria, particularly Bacillus species. They fermented the feed. They ferment bacteria at least 4 hours before mix up with the feed and then give to the shrimp to prevent anti-nutrient factor that may be left some in the feed or can prevent viral bacteria in the gut. So they do 3 things. And the fourth one, during the culture period, they minimize the organic matter in the pond. They detect the total organic matter in the pond during the grow-up period. The farm that survive white feces or do very well or do quite well during the first half of this year, they control total organic carbon, TOC, total organic carbon, but they have like a test kit to check. At the first month, okay, TOC should be this level. The second month should be this level. The third month should be this level. If you can manage the total organic carbon or organic matter in the water or in your pond, you can control the vibrio number. So when you can manage all of this, you can mitigating white feces problem and loss. So I think this information, if you check carefully, should be the same as in a farm in your country that already do very well. As I mentioned, once more, every farm use probiotic or some farm, big farm, they have speaking feed. It means they can request feed mill to make the feed that's suitable for the shrimp. So but that not a whole lot, just a few farm, big farm. But most farm that survive in Thailand, small one and medium size, they use a lot of probiotic during the growth period. So I want to mention that just for my talk today.